Welcome to Bible Storytime, and thank you for joining us. Today we approach one of the most astonishing and detailed prophecies in the entire Bible. Written over 700 years before the birth of Jesus, it paints a portrait of a Messiah so unexpected, so radical, that it continues to leave the world breathless. This is the story of the suffering servant. Our journey with Isaiah has shown us a God who comforts his people and promises a glorious return. The Israelites in exile were waiting for a hero, a conquering king who would restore their nation with power and might. They were looking for a lion, but God, through the prophet Isaiah, reveals a different kind of hero. He reveals a lamb. The prophecy begins with God's own voice, introducing this special servant. "See, my servant will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted." This sounds like the Messiah they were expecting, a triumphant ruler. But in the very next breath, the picture shatters. Just as there were many who were appalled at him, his appearance was so disfigured beyond that of any human being, and his form marred beyond human likeness. Wait, the exalted one will also be appalling to look at. The one to be lifted up will first be so broken, he barely looks human. This is the paradox at the heart of the story. God's chosen one will be both glorious and grotesque. And because of him, the prophecy says, kings will shut their mouths in silent awe. They will see something they had never imagined. Then the perspective shifts. It becomes the voice of the people. Our voice, looking back in confusion and regret. "Who has believed our message?" the prophet asks. We didn't see it. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. He wasn't the hero we wanted. He was ordinary, unimpressive. He was acquainted with grief, and we, humanity, turned away. We misjudged him completely. We saw his suffering and assumed he was being punished by God for his own sins. But then comes the turn, the single most important pivot in the prophecy, where our understanding is turned upside down. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. This is the great exchange. His suffering wasn't for his own sin, it was for ours. Every whip, every thorn, every nail, it was meant for us, but he took it for us. The crushing weight of our rebellion was placed on his shoulders. The very wounds that disfigured him became the source of our healing. The Bible says we all, like sheep, have gone astray, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. The prophecy then describes his response to this injustice. Did he fight back? Did he call down legions of angels? Number. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. He accepted it, willingly. He was convicted as a criminal and put to death, buried in a rich man's tomb, even though he had done nothing wrong. It seems like a terrible tragedy, a story of failure. But the final verses reveal the most stunning truth of all. This was not an accident. This was God's plan. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. Why? So that his life could become a guilt offering. So that through his suffering he would justify many and bear their sins. And because he poured out his life, God would exalt him. After the suffering, he would see the light of life and be satisfied. His death was not the end. It was the path to victory. For centuries, people read these words and wondered, who could this be? Who could possibly fulfill such a prophecy? Then a man from Nazareth walked the roads of Galilee. He healed the sick, but had no stately form. He was despised and rejected by the leaders. He was arrested, and when accused, he remained silent. He was pierced, crushed, and wounded. And as he hung on a cross, he bore the sin of the world. Jesus Christ fulfilled every line of this ancient prophecy. The cross was not a tragic interruption of God's plan. The cross was the plan. It was God's rescue mission, designed in eternity and foretold by Isaiah. to heal us through the wounds of his Son. This chapter shows us the heart of God. It reveals that the greatest power in the universe is not force, but sacrificial love. The hero of our story saves the world not by taking a life, but by giving his own. Thank you for watching Bible Storytime. If this story of the suffering servant moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For in his wounds we find our healing, and in his sacrifice we find our hope.